large is the in-person? How large is the in-person crowd?
No idea.
Hey guys, sorry for the delay. We are getting started. The council member is running a little bit late. We're just making sure that all the technical stuff is all good and good to go. Nice to see
Thank
everyone.
you.
Absolutely. All right, can everyone hear me online?
Yes, we can hear you.
Uh-oh. All right.
There's a little
This is
delay,
gonna
but
be
he
a-
said,
Hello? Okay. We're gonna have a bit of an issue with sound. So we're gonna have to hear from my computer. All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Is the council member here? Ryan, I see that you're in the room. You guys need some more time? Ryan Darcy?
He should be hopping on soon.
Yeah, no, take your time. I need the time myself.
Thanks.
All right, cool. Well, welcome everyone to the May Downtown Democratic Club. I would have our assignment, but it's been really busy. Let me sit down so everyone can see me. Today we're gonna go over the three things. We're gonna be going over the council member and having him report on some recent updates for revitalization in the downtown area. We're then gonna go over some other stuff the council member has prioritized in his office, like the homeless encampment ordinance. Following that, we will have a presentation from Shane Harris. And then after that, we will have the debate for what everyone is here for. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Can I get a hands show of members that are in the room? I need a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 10%. What's 20% of 20? Anyone know that? 4?
Mhm.
Okay, so we are at quorum, great. Let me pull up real quick the agenda so everyone can see online.
We may want to turn off the video for this one.
Oh, you got it. We'll do that in just a sec. And then for those of you that haven't seen the agenda, do you guys have or have seen the agenda? Do you guys have any questions? You can feel free online to raise your hand if you have any questions about the agenda. You guys have seen all my essays.
Congratulations on finishing your.
Oh,
semester.
yeah. What a busy semester it was this year, huh? All right, Councilmember Whitburn's here. Let me just pull up our agenda. We'll get that approved. And we'll get this meeting along. Sound good? Wonderful. So can everyone see the agenda? Yeah.
Yes,
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Is that good? More? All right. Still getting this hybrid system up and running, so it's not a lot of clubs give this option, so I am happy that we are able to do this. So do I have an approval of this agenda? Do I have any questions?
Move approval.
Wonderful. I got a motion to approve by Lori Saldana. Seconded by David. Let me make sure we're recording here. And we are. Wonderful. Yes, please. All right, so we got an approved agenda. We don't have any minutes since we don't have a secretary. So just FYI, if you guys are in the market for volunteering in a Democratic club, we do need a secretary. So if you guys feel so generous with your time. So now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and put the spotlight on Councilmember Whitburn. He'll have a 3-minute intro. We'll take about maybe 20 minutes for questions, and then whatever time left, he'll do a little closing statement. Does that sound good with the staff and the council member?
Sounds good to me. Can you hear me okay, Danny?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, let me just make sure that everyone here can see you. It's going to be a little bit tricky because the audio is on my computer, and I want to make sure that everyone can hear. So let me you know what? Yes, we will take questions from non-club members. We will prioritize club members first. All right. Can everyone hear the council member? Can you speak a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And the audio quality probably isn't great. I just checked in to the Bobby Hotel in downtown Nashville, Tennessee. The luggage did not make the second half of the flight, so my external
It's
microphone
not on TV, it's on the computer. Yeah,
packed away somewhere. But hopefully you can hear me okay. Is this all right?
it's a little bit hard to hear, but this is what we have.
Okay. I will try to talk sort of
I
slowly.
can't, 'cause it won't show them the council member.
We're working on some technical issues.
Let me see if I
Thank
have
you
it.
for your patience.
Oh, no rush here.
We were trying to find an audio, and we were missing a cable to hook up the amplifier. Oh, so it's the power cord.
Yeah. Can you still hear us, council member?
I can hear you just fine, Danny.
Yeah, it sounds like you're on mute here. Let me see.
You think it's the audio map that needs to be
Adjusted.
max out that audio? What I was suggesting is slide this closer to them.
I can't because this is as far as it goes.
Or slide the whole side your chair. I'll
Okay.
adjust the camera,
Sure.
slide the whole thing.
All right.
And okay, just the camera.
All right. Council member, you still hearing us?
I'm still hearing you. Are you able to hear me okay?
You guys here in the back? Yeah, somewhat. All right, sorry, guys. All right. So with all further ado, I present you Councilmember Whitburn. Make it up.
All right. Thank you, Danny. Thank you very much. I am sorry about the audio quality. My external microphone is packed away in a suitcase. It did not make the second half of the flight, so I'll try to speak distinctly so that I could be understood. But if the audio quality gets too bad, let me know, and I'm happy to repeat myself. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. We just arrived. A delegation from the Downtown San Diego Partnership is here, and we will be here for the next couple of days, exploring what they are doing in downtown Nashville, what they are doing with economic development, how they are approaching homelessness. In fact, I'll be on a joint panel with representatives of downtown Nashville discussing homelessness. So I'll be very interested to hear what they are doing in Nashville and seeing what ideas that I can bring back to San Diego, whether it has to do with homelessness issues or economic development issues or anything else that they're working on here. Nashville has seen a lot of growth in recent years, so I'll be very interested. Last year, the Downtown Partnership had a delegation to Denver, and I went on that trip. And that's where I got more familiar with safe sleeping, which is a concept that they have implemented very successfully in Denver to accommodate people who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness. And I brought that back to San Diego, and now we are going to have safe sleeping in San Diego. We announced that a couple of weeks ago. For those who may not be familiar with safe sleeping, essentially what it is you take a parking lot and you put bathrooms in there, you put security in there, and you have folks who are currently living on the sidewalks or in the parks or in the canyons, and invite them to stay at a safe sleeping site instead. And they receive meals and connections to services. It's very, very much like an indoor shelter, except that it's outdoors. There are a number of people who are currently living outdoors on the sidewalks who don't want to be on the sidewalks, but also don't want to go into an indoor congregate shelter for whatever reason. But I've spoken to several who have said that they would go to a safe sleeping site. And that's better for everybody. It's safer and healthier for them and better for our neighborhoods as well. Our first safe sleeping site will be at the city maintenance yard at 20th and B Streets. That will open up in July. And then our second safe sleeping site will be at a parking lot called the O Lot, which is just on the other side of the freeway from just south of Naval Medical Center. We are not going to have a safe sleeping site at Inspiration Point. That was one of the sites that we looked at, but ultimately we decided that these other two sites are better.
I'm gonna put it in
Yeah,
the
not
back
any
so
louder.
people can hear it.
Yeah, but it's not any louder.
Not that much.
The other initiative that I'm bringing forward related to homelessness is an ordinance. To protect public health and safety, we are going to be bringing forward an ordinance to City Council next month that would prohibit encampments on public property. We have seen a number of problems with encampments impacting both those living in encampments as well as the surrounding neighborhoods. For folks living in encampments, you may recall a couple of years ago, we had a car jump the curb near City College and went onto the sidewalk and ended up killing 3 people living in encampments. We've had spreads of hepatitis and Shigella. We have a bit of a hepatitis outbreak right now. And we've had a number of people who are attacked. It's just not a safe place to be or a healthy place to be on the sidewalks. And of course, for our neighborhoods, we have children walking to school on the sidewalk who end up having to walk out into the street to get around the tents. That's not good. We have had a number of canyon fires, people living in the canyons starting fires to either keep warm or cook food, and those fires have spread. And we've had dozens and dozens of canyon fires threatening homes. And of course, for the neighborhood, oftentimes it's disconcerting to have what sometimes can be erratic behavior and people living in tents on the sidewalks. The ordinance that I'm bringing forward will generally only be enforced during the daytime. It won't be enforced at night. And it will generally only be enforced when shelter is available. So if it's after 9 p.m. or if there's no shelter available, then it won't be enforced. There are some areas where it will be enforced at all times, and those are areas where there are particular threats to public health and safety, such as within a 2-block radius of schools or other homeless shelters, in parks, canyons, along the riverbank, and areas like that. So I think I saw a 30-second cue there, so why don't I wrap it up, and happy to discuss anything else about that or other subjects that may be of interest to anybody.
Wonderful. Thank you again for doing this and joining us. Apologies for the audience who can't really hear that much. I'm still trying to figure it out. With that said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take 30 second, 1-minute questions. I don't want any gotcha questions, which is questions of substance, please. And 1-minute response as well for the council member. And then I'm going to start with members, and then we'll go off to guest as well. All right, awesome. Hello, welcoming some folks into the room here. For those of you that are in person, you're missing out on the good brownies and mac and cheese that we got here. All right, so members, any members have questions? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I just saw your registration today, so awesome. Go ahead.
I'm Janet Wiles. Councilmember knows me. I'm a volunteer with Housing for the Homeless, and we are very concerned about this camping ban. We have a plethora of seniors on our streets living in tents. They don't feel comfortable in congregate shelters. They're not safe there. The largest growing group of homeless people in San Diego County is seniors. 55 plus, 57% self-identify as disabled. Many of our shelters do not accommodate them. We don't have a shelter specifically for seniors. The only shelter that there is Senior Landing, and that is only for seniors that have a housing match. So it's not helping our seniors on the street.
You mute the
So
mic
can
there,
you
right?
imagine?
I did. I did.
Oh, you muted this
It's
one.
muted up.
Map. 2 blocks from schools, 2 blocks from parks, 2 blocks from shelters, 2 blocks from rail lines. And it basically blocks out almost all public land. So now we have seniors that have to break down their tents. They have to pack up all their stuff, and they have to be on the move all day, because if they're not on the move, then they're doing encroachment. So we really don't have a place for people to go yet. So I think that this is jumping the gun. It's not a safe plan for our seniors, and the council member knows that there's no place for them to go. So why aren't we building the necessary infrastructure to take care of the largest growing group of seniors who have fallen through our safety net? 47% first-time homelessness.
Janice, thank you very much for that question. A couple of responses to that. First is, I hope that the safe sleeping sites are a location where many of our seniors who are currently living on the sidewalks will feel comfortable. And in fact, one of the reasons I'm confident that that is the case is that during the point in time count, I spoke to a number of seniors who were living on the sidewalks downtown, who said that they did not want to go into an indoor shelter for whatever reason. But when I asked them if they would be interested in a safe sleeping site, every single one of them said yes, because there will be bathrooms there, security there, so they'll be safe. It's a healthier environment for them. They'll receive meals. There will be connections to services. That is exactly the kind of constituency that safe sleeping sites are designed to assist. In addition to that, of course, we do need to be building more housing and housing for our senior population. We recently opened a non-congregate shelter, a former hotel, on the other side of Pacific Highway from the city administration building. That is geared towards seniors. We need to do much more of that. And I also, as part of the Civic Center revitalization project, insisted multiple times that if we're going to redevelop the Civic Center, that we need to also be adding shelter, or at the very least, deeply affordable housing. And that has led to an agreement that we are going to convert the Navigation Center on Imperial Avenue and the old Central Library in town into the affordable, possibly shelter as well. And I would expect that we'll be able to accommodate seniors in those locations as well.
Wonderful. Thank you again. I know it's kind of short. Questions? Oh, we got some hands. Let me get to these two members in front real quick, and then we'll go to you, Nancy. I have Darwin Fisher. Fishman?
Good afternoon. Thanks. Good to see you again, Councilor Whitburn. The question I have, following what was just previously asked, I'd like just to put it really succinctly. And this is the thing I don't understand about the work that's being done by your office and the mayor, which is as simple as this. If your plan works and it's so good, then the simple question I have is, why not have non-law enforcement enforce it? If you're going to make it illegal for these encampments, why not use someone else besides the police? That to me is the biggest issue. And if you have someone else besides the police enforce these laws, then they can only be called out if there's somewhere to take the people. Because if you're saying it's illegal to be here, then you have to have some resource in place to where you take the people if you're removing them. That to me is the obvious point. And I also say this, let me just say this too, to disclose, I'm on the Alternatives to Incarceration work group for the county, the advisory board, and we are going in front of the supervisors on Tuesday. This part of the report actually was stripped, where we said non-law enforcement response to homeless. And I don't know why this is such a touchy issue. So that's the question I want to ask. Why not have non-law enforcement response for these calls?
Wonderful.
Thank you, Darwin, for the question. The ordinance itself largely speaks to the rules. The enforcement is going to be something that is driven by the mayor's office. And the police department will be involved, and we will be getting a report at the same time as the ordinance on how the police department intends to enforce it. What I will say, though, is the goal here really is not to enforce to the degree possible. The goal is to encourage people to take advantage of the options that are available to them. There are, the way I see it, oftentimes three groups of people who are living outdoors. There's a group of people who would go into shelter if indoor shelter, if shelter were available. We need to keep building indoor shelter so that they can get into the shelter that's available to them, and they should not be penalized if there's no shelter available, and that's what this ordinance says. Also, there are people who do not want to be on the sidewalk but don't want to go into an indoor shelter, and now they'll be able to go into a safe sleeping site. Again, that's what this ordinance says. And then for the last group of people, which is not a majority, but there are people who have decided that living on the sidewalk is right for them. Those are the folks who have made it a choice to stay out there. Again, that's not a majority. There are plenty of people who want shelter, but for those who have made it a choice to live outdoors on the sidewalk, we need to ensure that they're taking advantage of the options available to them.
Wonderful. Thanks again. Sorry for the short period. I want to get to a lot of questions. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back and forth. I'm gonna go in person, online. So we'll go to Nancy next.
Hi, Mr. Whitburn. This is Nancy Cotting, Press Indivisible. And my question is about the infamous econ people were talking about.
Can you hear?
Oh, dear.
Wait, we have a phone going through the audience to pick up the question. So give us a minute for the person with the phone to get a little closer.
Hi, Mr. Whitburn. This is Nancy Cottingham. Oh, I'm echoing. This is weird. Uh, My question is about the SDG&E contract that, you know, many of us find so heinous, especially middle class and people that don't have any means at all. And was wondering if after the brouhaha of the January and February time, if there's been any action at all or any attempt by the council to do anything about that.
Got it. Thank you for the question, Nancy. So there are two things that are currently in process. One of them is a franchise agreement monitoring group that has been assembled, and they are going to be monitoring adherence to the franchise agreement.
Give us just a second. Now it's a little bit choppy. I think we're gonna go back to where we were. Okay, sorry. Let me just switch this audio real quick. Councilmember, you good to go.
Okay. Can you hear me okay, Danny?
No, it's still kind of breaking up.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Go ahead.
Okay, you can hear me okay now?
Better. Yes.
Okay. All right. Nancy, thank you for your question. I'm not sure that the first part of my answer came through, so I'll just briefly summarize it. There are a couple of things that we are doing in relation to the franchise agreement. One is we have a franchise monitoring group that has been assembled that will be monitoring SDG&E's adherence to the franchise agreement and reporting back on that. The other thing is that we have assembled another group that is exploring the prospects of San Diego municipalizing its electric supply.
Public power.
Right now, when we had the most recent franchise agreement, one of the reasons San Diego Gas and Electric got the franchise agreement is because no other electric utility bid on it, and because the city of San Diego was not in a position to start generating power, distributing power. We have a decade now, or nearly a decade, to decide if we want to municipalize our power company, and we'll be taking a look at that. And I'm interested in seeing what the possibilities there might be.
That is time. Great. Wonderful. Perfect timing on that one. So we have Doug Case next.
Okay, hi, council member. I have two quick questions. Number one is what will be the cost per bed or per tent for the Safe Living lot? And I asked that question because I watched the CNN special on San Francisco last week regarding their homelessness and drug problem, and they indicated that their cost was between $70,000 and $90,000 per space, which doesn't seem to me to be cost effective. And then my second question is, what is the difference between the current encroachment ordinance and the proposed encampment ordinance? And if we have an encroachment ordinance, why do we need an encampment ordinance?
Two great questions, Doug, and thank you for those. The answer to the first question is it appears as though the cost of the safe sleeping sites will be on par with the cost of indoor. It's a lot of the same thing. You have a service provider, you have bathrooms, you have meals, you have connections to services, you have security. It's just outdoors instead of indoors. It may be a little less expensive. It wouldn't be more expensive, but I think that the price tag approaches that of an indoor shelter. But it's an outdoor option for people who don't want to go into an indoor shelter. And the difference between the current ordinance and the ordinance I'm bringing forward right now, I mean, technically, it's illegal to have an encampment on the sidewalk because it constitutes encroachment, which means that you have an object that is on the sidewalk in the public right of way. And so that is what the city of San Diego and other municipalities historically have used. There has been some objection to using encroachment laws because encroachment laws were originally written to address things like a garbage can left in the middle of the sidewalk. Well, one of the objections was we're treating people like garbage cans, and that resonates with me. We shouldn't do that. And so the ordinance I'm bringing forward is straightforward. It simply talks about encampments and people living in them. The rules are clear. It will make it much easier for people to understand what the rules are, and it will make it easier to enforce the rules when it's necessary. So that's the difference.
Great. Thank you very much. I think one of my biggest concerns as a president for the clubs is obviously what I've been telling the council for quite some time now, is the fact that this seems to be an issue where most people agree that it's not okay for our streets to be cluttered, for our streets to have trash and all this stuff. But it's also not okay to perpetuate the homelessness for these individuals. So how are we not going to, let's say they get their fourth warning and they're cited for misdemeanor. How are we going to make sure that their lives aren't impacted further by being incarcerated or by having citations?
1 minute.
That's a great question, Danny. There is not one person that I have spoken to who wants to see the encampment ordinance end up being a legal burden on anyone who is in a situation where that is enforced. Homelessness Court does a great job of addressing people experiencing homelessness who have gotten into minor legal issues as a result of the challenges they face. For instance, you have people get a ticket on the trolley. You get somebody who gets a violation for encroachment. Homelessness Court is oftentimes able to address those so that they don't become a burden on the unsheltered population. The goal here is to ultimately help people get into a better place. Certainly those who want shelter, certainly those who want safe sleeping, but even for the people who are living outdoors. We have family members, Danny, who contact us and say, please, my loved one is living outdoors. I'm afraid for them. Please do something. Please help us get them into a better place. And sometimes you just need to disrupt the habit that somebody's gotten in where they just decided that, being on the sidewalk is what's for them. And hopefully this will help that. Not intended to be punitive. It's intended to ultimately help people.
Right. Thank you. And I think we'll have a bigger dialogue around that in the coming days. We want to go back online and then we'll go back in person. That's the way I've been doing it.
Okay.
So I have Jeremy next.
Hi, Councilmember Whitburn. Thank you for your time. My understanding is some reasons why unsheltered populations may not want to take advantage of shelter opportunities is they're restricted in their ability to bring their pets and their belongings to them. So can you speak to the safe sleeping sites? Will they allow pets and all of their belongings, as long as they're legal, be brought on site? Thank you.
I believe the answer to that is going to be yes. In fact, we have indoor shelters where pets are allowed. So I would anticipate that pets will be allowed in the outdoor shelters as well. That has been a common problem. There was a time where there were fewer shelters that accepted pets, but as a result of the problem that you are speaking to, we have seen more of our shelters begin to accept pets.
Thank you. Next, we have Lori Saldana.
Yes, Councilman, we're starting to see hepatitis flare up again. And the mayor did an audit at the state level that found the causes of that. And I think they need to be addressed once again with better communication with the county health department and other means to prevent another epidemic, which last time was the deadliest in the nation's history. We also have housing available in the form of trailers delivered 3 years ago that are still sitting vacant. So how can we count on you and other council members to very quickly get the hepatitis protocols implemented and get the housing in form of those FEMA emergency trailers activated after more than 3 years now?
Thank you, Lori. Yes, you are right about the outbreak of hepatitis that I mentioned at the outset. The county has asked the city of San Diego to add outdoor bathrooms and hand washing stations, and the city is doing that to try to control the spread of hepatitis. And it's, frankly, another reason why these encampments are unhealthy, because it is in the encampments that we have seen the spread of hepatitis, the spread of Shigella, and that is one of the health concerns that I have about the current situation. In terms of the trailers that the city of San Diego received from FEMA, most of them have been are in the process of being put to good use at one of the safe parking sites that the city has. There will be safe parking at that site, and then there will also be those campers available for people to stay in. And I think that they are being reserved for particularly vulnerable populations. And then there are some remaining trailers, and I'll have to check what the status is on employing those. The city administration is looking for ways to get those used as well.
That is time. Wonderful. If you have time for one more question, we'll wrap it up with one more question, and then
I'm here as long as you want me, Danny.
Wonderful. All right. Levi, I see in the room is the next question.
Okay. My question is in regards to, with so many LGBT and Black San Diegans already experiencing discrimination, how will they fare if they are forced into a shelter environment that is either homophobic or racist? And how will that affect our diversity goals? And with that being said, wouldn't it be easier and better to focus and stay focused on building housing so that we can flow through our shelters instead of having to build more and more shelters?
Well, there is no question, Levi, that the ultimate answer to the homelessness crisis is building more housing and more deeply income restricted affordable housing, so that there is an affordable home for everyone, whether it's the LGBTQ community, the Black community, or anyone else. We have to do something to accommodate people in the meantime. And for many people, that is an indoor shelter. For other people, that may be safe sleeping. We are in the process of opening a shelter for people who identify as LGBTQ. I have requested money in this current budget to add funding for shelter for people who identify as LGBTQ. And the bottom line in terms of enforcement of this ordinance is there will be no room for disproportionate enforcement of the ordinance. We need to make sure that everybody is treated equitably in all situations, including this one. But again, the idea isn't to be punitive. The idea is to give folks a better place to go and encourage them to use it.
Thank you, council member. Perfect timing on that one. Wonderful. So, and thank you. Do you mind just elaborating on how much you said you allocated for these shelters?
So there is a fact, well, okay, so which shelters do you mean? The safe sleeping or?
You mentioned you entered a line item to get some money for the shelters for the LGBT shelters or people who identify as LGBT?
I believe that line item is $1.5 million, if I recall correctly.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other questions? We'll do one more and then we've got to wrap up. All right, I have Bob Link in the room.
Councilmember, thank you very much for this presentation today. My question from the East Village Residents Group perspective is, are you considering a phased implementation so we have the opportunity to look at the ordinance and make sure that either temporary or permanent shelters are available as we move forward with the ordinance?
Bob, absolutely. The first phase of so once the ordinance passes, there will be a period of time before it actually does take effect. And the first thing that's going to happen is an education campaign so that the people who are living outdoors and others are acquainted with the ordinance. We want to make sure everybody understands what the rules are. So we will absolutely be doing an education and informational campaign before anything else. So yes, it will be rolled out.
Wonderful. And do you have any other last comments you would like to make, given all the concerns of the community and what we've heard today?
Well, I appreciate the good questions. There is a lot of interest in this issue. The feedback that I have gotten is overwhelmingly in support of the ordinance. I know that there are people who have concerns, and certainly we've heard from some of them today. And my goal is to do everything we can to address the concerns in advance of the ordinance's implementation, should it pass, and certainly afterwards as well. But this is something that San Diegans really want to see. San Diegans want to see people experiencing homelessness be in a safer and healthier place, and want to see neighborhoods where children can walk to school on the sidewalks without having to walk out into the street around the encampments. And I look forward to getting this through and implementing it in a way that is fair and equitable to everyone. Laura, you're muted if you were saying something.
Were there any more questions from people in the audience and the online? I don't see hands.
I see Darwin Fishman's hand.
I think he asked a question at first and we just hasn't lowered his hand after
Oh,
the.
got it.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else in the audience? I know the sound quality, apologies for the tough quality. We need an interpreter. So
And I'll ask a question I hadn't planned to, but if there's a moment, I'd love to. Hey, and this is an issue that's dear to my heart, is curious if you've heard about the plans that Japan has to dump a bunch of over 1 million tons of irradiated water that was used to cool the radioactive core of the Fukushima Daiichi disaster. They were planning to start releasing it this spring, and thanks to public pressure and scientists concerned, it's on pause, but it's still the plan. And Activist San Diego is a member of the Stop TEPCO Coalition, which is a global, a bunch of groups working to change this. And one of the things that we're just getting started and is a city council resolution. West Hollywood up in Los Angeles just passed a resolution opposing this, and it's on our agenda to bring to the city council and find someone in the council that would be willing to champion this resolution. And I guess I'd love to ask if that's something that you'd be interested in, and I would follow up with you if so.
Well, please do follow up with us. Both Ryan and Cody from my team are on this Zoom, and so they'll be expecting to hear from you, and we'll take a look at it. I have to say, I'm not familiar with this particular issue. Would be happy to take a look at it and see, you know, if we want to join you in this effort.
Cool. I'll encourage everyone to check it out. ActivistSanDiego.org on our website has a Stop TEPCO page with some information. I'll follow up with more. And it's just one of those things that it's not even partisan at all. It's like everyone does not wants our seafood and our food, our oceans to be safe for the future. So a really uniting issue. So thank you for the time and your answer. Yeah.
You bet.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate those questions. I think those are really great questions. Looked like you wanted to say something. Council member. Okay.
Oh, no, I did not. I was thanking her for the question.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, really great questions. I wish we had more time to keep doing this all day so that you can hear a lot of the community members. I mean, that's what we're here for, so that we can have a transparent, accountable government. But we have run out of time for this section. I hope to have your staff or you join at other meetings. You know, we appreciate the time, you know, especially coming straight from the airport. To do this, you know, we've got some real concerns about what this is going to entail, what the downtown revitalization is coming up with. So I think this is an ongoing dialogue between you and the club, and I appreciate you taking the time to come.
You bet, Danny. Thank you very much for having me. I live downtown, as you know, so I see our downtown as having so much potential, and really looking forward to joining you and the other members of the club and making our downtown everything we know it can be. So thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Wonderful. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. All right. With that said, I am going to call our next item up to the up here. I don't see him though. I don't think Shane Harris is here. No Shane. All right, we're going to move on, and we are first, since he's not here, I do want to recognize the fact that it is foster care, National Foster Care Month, and that's what we were going to talk about today. Can't sit down like that. That's what we're going to talk about today, and I just, you know, being a former foster care myself, is extremely important to have people speak up about this issue. And with that said, you know, there was a policy proposal that was presented today, but unfortunately we'll have to do it for another time. I would just say, you know, get to know a foster child, get to know someone who is in the foster care system, and treat them with dignity and respect. Help them by tutoring. I tutor for the San Diego County Department of Education for K through 12 students in the foster care system, and we have got a broken system. And that's why I think the next item that we're going to be talking about, the County Board of Supervisors, is incredibly important to not only behavioral health, to our social welfare systems, but to so many things that we've got going on in this city. Both Democrats and Republicans can agree we've got some problems and we need to fix them. So I appreciate everyone's here today. There are a lot of restaurants in the area of downtown, in the area of Hillcrest, that are giving about 10% of their donations to foster care foundations that are doing really great work. Unfortunately, I don't have the link for that right now, given all the technical difficulties that we've had to deal with today. But I will post that in our next newsletter. The end of the month will be the end of those donations collections. We also appreciate all the other mental health month is this month. So it's so many different things that I want to uplift, but so little time to do. So with that said, I am going to just debrief a little bit since we got some time. I think we're waiting for another council member to come. I'm gonna let Laura Saldana take over to debrief about the homeless encampment and what that means.
I'm still trying to plug this power in. Give me a minute.
And we just had another committee drop in, so perfect timing on getting us started here. With that said. Amazing, but
We need a microphone.
yeah, I got the microphone.
We have the microphone.
Give us just a second. We found a microphone that.
Art found the cord. Thank you, Art.
Oh, you are like, I didn't think that they'd have the cords back there. Anyone have any comments about what we just talked about the council member? Where the hell is the cord?
I put it on the shelf over there.
No comments about the homeless encampment?
Yeah, go ahead. I didn't, the quality of the sound is so.
Yeah, well, I pretty much heard what he said, so.
Okay, somebody commented about pets being a deterrent for getting some homeless off the streets. But my experience of talking with homeless, I think there's other deterrents that stand out to me. And one is some refuse to abide by curfew. And, substance abuse restrictions, they're freer.
Yeah.
Sidewalk. And so my question would be, in these safe shelter parking lot areas or whatever, areas there are, would there be curfews and would there be restrictions against?
I don't know that. I won't know that, but I can tell you for certain, most shelters do have curfews. And that,
Do, but I about those, campsites
Yeah.
or designated safe shelter campsites.
Mhm.
If they have more restrictions, they'll be less appealing to those who want to do their own thing as they wish, where they wish, when they wish. And then people like to have to step over them or across them. And I'm seeing you. I appreciate your, I don't know what about my background, a person with substance abuse and or mental health and emotional health issues, causing them to be homeless, causing them to be sleeping on the street. I would personally prefer them having a safe site where they're safe and I'm safe, because I live near here and I want to be able to walk without fearing that I'll trip over or somehow enrage a person sleeping on the street because I'm trying to be careful dodging around them.
I'm gonna let Lori answer that.
Actually, in the interest of meeting and time management, and I know we have an expert here, Levi works on a daily basis with many of the people that are struggling right now with the circumstances you described. But in the interest of time we have two people here that I think will want to address some of this as well. The County of San Diego, and so I'm going to segue into an introduction of our candidates and say that the County of San Diego is established under the state constitution to manage local health and safety concerns. That is why we have the Sheriff's Department. Again, it's under a state constitutional issue. So even the state provides money through taxes. It's a complicated system. And the county supervisors manage, this year, I believe it's an $8 billion budget allocation compared to the city of San Diego, which is around 5 billion. But by far the bulk of those funds are intended to go to health and human services. A bulk goes to the Sheriff's Department. So we are very fortunate today to have two candidates who are running to fill the open District 4 supervisor seat. And I think that would be a good question for them to address. I'm hoping we have a better sound quality. So for the people, and I just realized they're just looking at my shirt. There we go. For the people who are online, I don't have it on yet.
Oh,
I was still, let me try it. If I use
there we go.
this, does that help with
You
the
guys hear?
people online? Can the people online hear the sound?
Yes,
we can.
Right, because I was looking for a thumbs up, the people in the room. So I'm hoping that this will manage some of the sound issues we had for the prior speaker. Monica Montgomery Stepp is the council president pro tem. She is serving in her second term on the San Diego City Council, just elected last year in 2022. Janessa Goldbeck is veteran of the United States Marine Corps. She has worked on issues on supporting survivors of sexual assault. And she currently is working with a nonprofit organization to encourage more veterans to participate in the political process in this country. I'm just going to do a very annotated introduction of you two and let you do more. And with that, if you would please come on up. Sorry for all the cords, but yes, welcome our speakers.
Right here. Just make sure everyone can see you guys.
Thank you both. Thank you both so much. And we didn't really get a chance when everyone first arrived, but thank you all for being here. And more people have arrived since we started this. The District 4 used to cover downtown. It actually now is inland from here. Downtown is actually split to the east and south with District 1, which is Nora Vargas. Coastal and north is Tara Lawson Reamer, the two Democrats that are on the Board of Supervisors. The inland areas are Jim Desmond and Joel Anderson. And that is the North County and inland, and then the unincorporated areas. And under the state charter for supervisors, you have one district that is supposed to encompass all of the city of San Diego. So that is still District 4, is that correct? But you also now have La Mesa.
Some incorporated areas.
And some,
Yeah.
so it's a little. So District 4 goes all the way out to Spring Valley, El Cajon, Casa del Oro. So it's quite a diverse area socioeconomically. It is the highest concentration of communities of color, the highest concentration of Black residents, the center, Hillcrest, uptown for LGBTQ communities. So there's a lot going on in this district in terms of diversity. And then, of course, we add in our veterans community. And for those who don't know, I didn't mention, I represented much of this area as a state assembly member. So have a sense of that diversity and complexity. And add to that, of course, post-COVID homelessness, health and safety on the local level. Lots going on with these ladies. We didn't flip it. Do we have a coin flip? A number to choose?
Yeah.
In terms of who goes first. So we'll do an opening. And if I could, please, when we started the meeting, could I have a show of hands of our current members, active members, who will be, we had enough for a quorum. It's a small turnout today, but we do have enough under our bylaws to conduct an endorsement vote today. So this meeting is not just as with the council member prior speaking, this is not just informational. This is also for us to make a recommendation on an endorsement consideration when it comes up after the discussion today. So if you are members, everyone may ask questions, but we'll give priority to members to ask questions first and then turn it over to non-members. I didn't ask show of hands online, which is tricky to see, but we've got we have some members online as well. Okay, what are we going to do?
All right, so Paul's what?
It's like home and away, right?
Go ahead.
All right.
She can't call anything.
What do we have?
Okay.
All right, so I will turn this over to.
Oh, I get to go first.
Yeah. Can I introduce the format of this?
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a win.
So I appreciate everyone. Just to kind of go over how this is going to go. We're going to have 3-minute intros for both candidates. Then we're going to take questions for about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how much time the candidates have. Then we'll go into closing statements, which is about 3 minutes as well. And then we will ask the candidates and their staff to leave the room. And then after that, we will decide who, if any of you will endorse. Okay, wonderful. Well, since Monica Montgomery, Councilmember Montgomery is going to be going first, I'm going to hand over the mic.
Well, good evening, technically, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Monica Montgomery Steph. I currently serve as council member for District 4, which is the southeastern area of the city, with neighborhoods like Encanto, Lincoln Park, Mount Hope, Mountain View, Paradise Hills, where I grew up, and also now live in Skyline. So I represent that area on the city council now, and I am running for the county board of supervisors. You just heard how vast that district is, and so I'm really excited about the opportunity to represent so many people in San Diego, about 750,000 people. So I really wanted to run for this, and I came kicking and screaming. This was a tough decision for me, just coming off of an election, but understanding the power that is at the county to serve our most vulnerable communities in particular, and how my knowledge at the city would help me to build those partnerships that we really need at the county. It's going well. They're doing good. The county and city had not worked together for a long time, especially on homelessness issues and housing issues. They're doing much better, but I do think that my knowledge at the city puts me at an advantage in helping to continue to build those relationships. So at the city, under my tenure, we had more than $100 million invested into our disinvested community. We worked on a lot of police reform and accountability. We also started the Office of Race and Equity, which has a budgetary lens in the way we make our decisions at the city now, which we never really had before. So we've really done a lot of good work there, and I just want to do that on a broader scale. The last thing that I will say in these 3 minutes is that what is particularly special to me and what puts me in a unique position at the county is that when I was in college, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune illness. And so I had to come home from Atlanta, Georgia. My mother and father had to take care of me. My mother had to apply for in-home supportive services. I had to apply for resources at the county. And so this is very real to me. And when I'm thinking about all the people that were in the position or are in the position that I was in, and how resources can make or break a family, and our bureaucracy sometimes, it sometimes perpetuates those cycles of poverty. I really, really want to be there to try to interrupt that. So that people can have a good quality of life that they deserve. And that's where it gets personal to me. So including all the professional experience, it's just a personal endeavor that I have sought out for the seat. So thank you for having us, and I look forward to your questions.
Perfect, thank you.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Janessa Goldbeck. For those of you I don't know, I'm a lifelong San Diegan, was born and raised in North County. I moved away for college, spent the first chapter of my career working as a human rights advocate to protect civilians in conflict zones. I did that in Washington, D.C., where I learned how to write and pass federal legislation to do that and mobilize the U.S. government for those resources. Over the course of that work, I worked a lot with humanitarians who were on the ground in dangerous places. And in order to operate, we had to coordinate and work together with folks who were in the military that were providing the security. And it became very obvious to me very quickly that there were not a whole lot of people who spoke both languages, humanitarian and military speak. And that resulted in actually lives lost because when we had lack of coordination. So I decided to go get an extreme master's degree in military speak by joining the United States Marine Corps at the age of 26. I signed my contract under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but I was extraordinarily fortunate that the policy was repealed while I was still in my first initial weeks of training. So I was actually able to serve as one of the first openly gay Marine officers, an experience that completely changed the course of my career and really underscored to me how important it is that we make and set and enforce policies that create a more inclusive world for everyone. I got out of the Marines 7 years later after being stationed back here twice. My first duty station was Miramar, second was MCRD right over by the airport. I got out of the Marine Corps for two reasons. One, Trump was president, and that was pretty scary. And two, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. My parents are divorced, I'm an only child, and it fell on me to take care of her. It wasn't a question, it was an absolute. So I came home, got out of the Marines. The council member and I actually share very similar stories interacting with the county and in-home supportive services. My mom's ability to end the last years of her life with dignity were a direct result of her ability to have a disability union pension my benefits as a member of the military and our community. And I know so many families do not have access to those resources. They are living on the brink day to day. We see more people falling into homelessness every single day, the most of which are seniors who can't afford the cost of living and rising rents. And so all of the things that the county does, that's where the rubber meets the road on our region's most pressing issues. These are personal issues to me. I've lived through them. This is my home. It matters to me what happens here. And so when I launched this campaign back in February, thinking that Nathan Fletcher would be ascending to the state Senate in a few years, I had no idea that we would be in this position just a few months later. I was building for this campaign for over a year. I'm proudly endorsed by State Senator Tony Atkins, Congressmember Scott Peters, Congressman Mike Levin, and about a dozen other local, state, and federal officials. I am very excited about the possibility of working together with the city, with the state, and with our federal partners to address these challenges that we face. And I'm really looking forward to our discussions. Thank you. Great.
Amazing. Amazing introductions. I'll take over. All right, awesome. So appreciate you for both for introducing yourselves to us. Some of us, this is the first time we're seeing and hearing from the candidates in this district. Just to kind of give some context about the election and where it's at, where we're at, because I know there hasn't been a declared election yet. We don't have an election for the seat just yet. So correct me if I'm wrong, but August 15th is going to be the election that the Board of Supervisors is going to determine in about a week or two. Tuesday. Ooh, so Tuesday coming up, we're going to decide whether we're going to have an election. It is almost certain that we will. And from that, they have a couple of less than 2 months to really talk to the community and really raise the issues. It's an unfortunate situation that we're in right now, given that the seat is open, but I think we have two great candidates in the room that are ready to step up and lead in our community and have been leading in our community. So wonderful. I am going to start off with questions. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go in person, online, online. Does anyone have any problems with that? Wonderful. I just want to make sure we get all the concerns in order first. All right, feel free to raise your hands online and in person. Wonderful. So I'll go with Bob Link first.
Thank you, Councilmember, and thank you, Jessica, for participating in the conference. I really appreciate that. I'm Bob Link, President of the East Village Residents Group. I'm also on the Downtown Community Planning Council, currently Executive Secretary this year. And we look forward to everything that's happening. So carrying forward from the current council initiative on Councilmember Whitburn's ordinance, which is focused largely on recovery, both community recovery, homeless recovery. In its initiative that's pulling the city together in some respects, and in some respects alternate opinions.
Bob, keep the mic close to your mouth. So it works better if it's closer to your face. Thank you.
And what the East Village Residents Group would like to know is the city council finding a path to this being a real solution? And is the federal government in a position to participate in this solution presented in San Diego regarding a couple temporary camps, 20 can be 136 spaces in a couple of weeks. The O Street lot next to the Naval Hospital, probably in the full time frame, the mayor's office is telling me. And this is to be decided apparently at the 13 June City Council meeting. So I'd appreciate a response both from your perspective.
All right, and then we're just gonna switch back and forth since Monica went first. I'll let Janessa go first.
Sure. I'll definitely let the council member speak to the city's role, but when it comes to addresses, I used to live downtown a couple years ago when I was stationed at MCRD, and coming back downtown now, it's clearly things have not gotten better. And I can imagine, I heard you speaking earlier about your fear of being out on the streets. And I think that's a very, there's a lot of us are very concerned about what we're seeing. The local government, I think, absolutely has a role. And again, I'll let the council member speak to what the city is currently considering, but the county is really where things can happen at scale. A couple of things that are in President Biden's current budget, I think will be helpful in a rather immediate sense. One of our fastest growing populations of homeless folks are our homeless youth. 1 in 4 foster youth exiting the system at the age of 21 become homeless. And in President Biden's current proposed budget, there is a new program for a universal voucher for anyone who ages out at the age of 21 to have a voucher like a VASH voucher that veterans have, or a HUD voucher for folks who are of a certain income level. That would allow them to get into housing and then begin to sort of address things like their mental health, education, getting a career benefit. So I think that's a step in the right direction. We need to work with our federal partners to make sure that we are, that stays in the budget and gets through Congress. Okay, so I'll just stop there.
I didn't mention.
That. We're trying to. have-
Sorry, I didn't know we were on a time.
1:30.
1:30.
Okay.
You guys get to put me on a clock like I put you on a clock. Huh? Okay, so there is a thing called the Brown Act at the city. So anything that has not come before the city council now, I do have limited knowledge about the actual process with regard to Councilmember Whitburn's office. I don't know if the anti-camping ordinance or the ban on camping ordinance is coming with safe camping. I don't know that. I know what I've seen and what you've seen, which is in committee about the questions kind of going back and forth. So to answer this in probably a minute that I have, what my sticking point is for folks who are living and sleeping on the streets and on the sidewalks is that we, in my opinion, we have to have a place for them to go. We have to have a choice. Now, those choices can look a lot of different ways, but even, for example, with vouchers and we're asking the state to have a permanent funding source for our homelessness because we don't know what we're gonna do and don't know what we're gonna get every year. And it's really, really hard to plan around that. But the bottom line is what folks need, whether they have addiction issues, whether they have mental health issues, whether they have children, whether they are veterans or whether they are seniors, where they are at, we have to make it more easy in our system in order for them to know what their options are. We are turning people away right now. When people go to get shelter right now, we are turning folks away. And it's so hard to support anything that results in a ban or anything else when we are not, in my opinion, doing our job. Yes, we have to do something, but I think the first step is to get folks where they need to be. If they choose not to, then that's something different. That's another conversation. Right now, we don't have an option.
Thank you. And I guess I should also ask, what is your time constraints? How much time do you have for our?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
We're good.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
I'm good.
I'm good. Yeah. We're good.
We're good.
You're both great. Do we want to go to an online?
Yeah. Thanks again. All right. So for those of you online, feel free to go ahead and raise your hands now.
Trying.
Oh, and if you can't, feel free to unmute. Yep. I heard Mackenzie first, so well, I'm sorry, Mackenzie, Mary.
That's
Mary,
okay.
Mary, go ahead and answer your ask your question.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, council member. Hi, Janessa. My question is about gun violence. And we know that California has been pretty good. I mean, the state of California has on the books pretty good laws about gun violence, but gun violence is still happening. What can be done on the county level about that?
All right, so just for the back audience, the question was surrounding, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank right now. Gun violence in San Diego.
Get it straight, get the rules straight.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. This is very also near and dear to me. As part of my work, I instituted or started the peace movement, Let's Live, Let's Love. It's particularly for the district. And I started that because we had 4 shootings in one night in my community. And so we went to the place of one of the shootings. We did have a press conference there, but I knew that this is, we need holistic solutions when it comes to gun violence. And I did not want to stand out in a corner and put on social media that I was telling folks, hey, stop using guns and don't kill each other, right? This is particularly for our most vulnerable communities that the county is charged with serving, an extension of the current district that I serve. This is an issue around disinvestment in our communities. There are issues around mental health. There are issues around access to guns. And so what we did, we instituted a No Shots Fired program. It's the first program in the city of San Diego that has been funded through the budget of $250,000 to have credible messengers out in the community. So when a violence occurred, when a shooting occurred, they would immediately respond. They would go to the hospital where the families were. They would provide resources for the family and also quell the violence in our communities. And that program, along with working with partners and law enforcement included, but community organizations, reduced homicides in District 4 by 55%. Crime stats are coming out Tuesday, and we will see that, but it's proof that we can add alternative methods when we are very targeted about what and who we are trying to do and change, and we can make that difference. We just have to make sure that we are investing in that way, and this is proof that it does work. So I would do the same types of things at the county, very, very similar in that.
Thank you. I'm being a little more generous. We're working on some signs too. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I'm a proud member of San Diegans for Gun Violence Prevention. Part of my role there is as a Marine, a veteran, and a gun owner to go into the communities where talking about gun violence prevention is hot. People who are very proud of being gun owners, who want no restrictions and no limitations, and speak directly to them about why thoughtful gun restrictions and gun limits and training are important and why we need to have those. So those are tough conversations. People are not super excited to have those with me, but I believe it's my responsibility and role as a leader to do that. At the county, we know that people who are having extreme acute psychiatric issues, interacting with police is a recipe for disaster. The county has started something called mobile crisis response teams, which have trained psychiatric staff and social workers who go out instead of armed officers. In many, many cases, there were thousands of interventions made by these teams last year. We need to expand those so that we are making sure that there are not people getting into harm's way because they are interacting with armed officers when they're having an extreme episode. If we can divert, that's great. The last thing I'll say is the county's probation officers. These are the people who are making sure or attempting to make sure that people who are coming out of our institutions and prisons are not going back into them. They are severely underfunded. They're severely short-staffed. I sat down with them last week. They were pleading for more officers so that they could have lower caseloads and spend more time and attention with people who are at highest risk for going back into the system. We need to make sure that those folks have the resources they need.
Thank you.
Answers. Then we're gonna go back in person with Nancy from Indivisible. I don't think it'll reach that far. Sorry.
Hi. I just wanted to ask you, one of the most important things I think that the county kind of has more responsibility for, it seems, is the climate action plan. I don't know about you, but it sort of seems like we've lost our way on that a little bit. So I'd like you both to comment on anything you would want to add to it, anything you want to do to supercharge it, because we are out of time.
For those of you that couldn't hear in the back, that the question was about climate change and the climate action plan in San Diego.
Thanks for that question, Nancy. I think one of the things that the climate movement here in San Diego should be really proud of is its constant demand for accountability. How are we going to do these things? You can say whatever you want, but you need to show me how. And so we're seeing forward movement on that at the city. And I think the county's also got that mindset now that they're going to be held accountable for the metrics of how. A couple of things that I want to talk about, just to give you a sense of some of my experience. I'm the CEO of a national veterans advocacy organization. We represent about 1.5 million vets and military families nationwide. I'm extraordinarily proud of the fact that last year we worked directly with the Biden administration to federally protect and create 3 new national monuments across the country, federally protecting over 550,000 acres of new land. We're in the process of working on a couple of issues here in California, but we're also making sure that the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act passed. Those 2 bills combined represent the largest significant amount of funding in climate infrastructure in history. Well, the county deserves a slice of those funds. And we need to make sure that we are getting those. Right now, the county of San Diego, we actually get our butts kicked by other counties around California when it comes to per capita federal investment. So we need to make sure that the county is right sized so that we've got people specifically going after those dollars for electrification, for green energy, for infrastructure that actually gets us closer to our climate goals.
Thank you so much for the question. I was honored to serve on the San Diego Community Power inaugural board, and then the county came on a bit later. And so doing really important work on that board. And now Councilmember Joe LaCava, who was also endorsed me, has taken up that mantle to serve on that board. And so with regard to climate, I know a little bit about city and county. The city is currently being sued because of implementation, right? And so the focus is not on, as Janessa said, necessarily what we have in the plan, but what our goals are and how we are meeting those. So I think making a move on electrification of all new buildings, doing the retrofitting for the buildings that the county owns as well, really encouraging new trends and behavior changes around public transportation, making that investment into public transportation. I just think that, you know, we folks, at the end of the day, this is still an era of convenience, and we need to at least show that we are making public transportation more accessible, and while not abandoning those who have to ride, also including choice riders, because I just think that the highest, the area of the most pollution is GHG and how we travel. And changing those behaviors is super important. So the regional boards that decide on the transportation issues and getting community members and voters involved in making those changes and making that investment into those 5 big moves, I think that that's very, very important.
Thank you both for that. And we're gonna go back online, and I think we have Francis. Wonderful. Go ahead.
Hello, could I be so bold as to two questions in one, or two questions? One, very getting back to the public power, the conversation that was addressed with Councilmember Whitburn, but I'd love your guys' thoughts on, potentially, would you champion an effort to move towards San Diego having public power and ending the monopoly of SDG&E? How would you approach that? And second would be around surveillance, and the currently police department of San Diego is asking for millions of dollars for over 500 surveillance cameras that would be AI equipped and collect tons of data. And there's a lot of concerns in the community around those issues. And obviously a history of the council sort of not doing a role of the necessary role in oversight. And I appreciate that they were willing to create the privacy advisory board, so we have at least some citizen review. But I really am curious as to what your positions are personally on this, and as a supervisor, where you'd stand on the issue of surveillance cameras. Thank you.
Thank you. Did everyone hear that in the background? No? Okay, so just a quick wrap. The concern was around smart streetlights, which is the second question, was the recording devices that are going to be attached to streetlights. And the first question was around public-owned utilities for the county.
Yeah, so during the franchise agreement vote with the city of San Diego and San Diego Gas and Electric, I did vote no. I do think that public power is a viable option for our region. We also, myself, along with Councilmember LaCava and Council President Sean Rivera, instituted a climate independence fund that we are putting money in yearly, so that when that franchise agreement, when we have an option to get out of it in 9 years or so, then we can have funding in order to begin to implement public power if we so choose to do that. Some of the issues where folks didn't feel like we had leverage, I think we had leverage as the CPUC, that, they weren't gonna let San Diego Gas and Electric, Turn Us Off Plus, that would have been great PR for San Diego Gas and Electric to do. Should have dared them to do that anyway. So yes, I do agree with that. With regard to surveillance, I champion along with the community, the group Trust SD, we champion the surveillance ordinance and also the Privacy Advisory Board. I know that in the budget right now, there is an opportunity to fund $4 million to smart streetlights that have not yet been assessed by the Privacy Advisory Board. At the very least, I believe in the process that I set up, right, with the community, and that we need to go to that process before we start funding anything. Streetlights is coming from the history of surveillance. That is tough because oftentimes it is used on activists and other folks. At the same time, we are in a technological world. So I do think that we have to have a bit of modification, which is why we have experts on the Privacy Advisory Board to let us know what they think.
I'm giving you 2 minutes since it was a two-part question. So go ahead.
Oh, do you want more time?
No, that was.
Oh, that was 2 minutes. Okay.
Just.
So my favorite issue. Yeah, good to see you, Francis. So in terms of public power, I do support it. I think where we're at right now, we need to invest in what the infrastructure would look like, and not just, we can't just snap our fingers overnight, because that's going to leave us in a lurch. So I do think we need to be forward thinking, but not just thinking about each little sliver, but sort of the big picture. We talked a little bit about public transit earlier. The reality right now is that 95% of San Diegans do drive. So how do we reduce people from driving and invest in our public transit, knowing that we can't just snap our fingers overnight and get rid of parking and roads because people won't be able to get to their jobs or park where they live. So how do we do both those things at once? Well, I think part of that is creating a plan that acknowledges the reality of that situation. Right now, we have a public transit system. We don't need to totally recreate it, but are there ways we can increase the frequency of our bus routes, increase the destinations of our bus routes, do things like implement a fleet of clean energy or electric Priuses that people who are disabled and can't use the trolley because it's inaccessible because sidewalks are broken could get a voucher for and go to their appointments that way. There are a lot of creative ways in counties and cities around the country that people are investing in public transit that doesn't look exactly like a metro or an underground subway. So I think we need to get really creative about that and figure out how we can reduce emissions on our roads. The second around surveillance, sorry, I went way too long on that piece. You know, at the county, we have a lot of work to do, I think, at the county in terms of defining privacy and how we handle it. AI is obviously coming at us really hard and fast and in a very scary and exciting way. I think HHS in particular, our Health and Human Services, behavioral health services, is there a way we can use technology to actually link people's records and services accessed so that we can spot patterns? Oh, when we have people come in for X thing and they are linked up with services, can we track them anonymously in some way to see 5, 6 months down the road, did that intervention work? So I do think we need to be really cautious about it and have a thoughtful way of evaluating it, but also that it could really be used to our advantage.
Thank you. I just, let me step in here for just a minute. Board member prerogative. I'm on the board of a foundation. We are suing the city over the climate or the franchise agreement. We are suing the county over their decarbonization framework plan. It's one of those things that is part public interest, public advocacy. Lawsuits are sometimes necessary to push in a different, from a different direction. So just if you have more questions about any of these plans, you know, be happy to talk to you about that. Were we going in person next one or online?
Yeah, we're gonna go in person next.
Levi, Janice?
I
You
saw
guys
Levi
looking
first and then we'll, did Zach, okay. You had one, great.
So previously mentioned by our county board of supervisors, what's interesting is that it is not only San Diego, but this covers Mesa also.
Just a little bit.
Sorry. La Mesa is, I feel, like probably one of the first and worst offenders of not taking responsibility for the housing crisis and for the homeless crisis. I myself have clients who come all the way downtown, but they fell into homelessness in La Mesa because the cost of living is so high. And they still remain in La Mesa because that's the community that they know. but the closest place that they can get any kind of shelter, resources, or their mail is all the way downtown with us. And vice versa. Also, when the sweeps happen downtown and the Padres start playing, I also see an increased number of my clients all the way over in La Mesa. And La Mesa has pushed off a bunch of housing projects. I guess my question is from the supervisor position, what could you do to really hold those other areas accountable housing wise?
I forgot where we're at.
It's me.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. This is a great point. And I don't want to just focus on La Mesa because there's lots of regions around the county that are very resistant to building. I grew up in Encinitas, so that's definitely one of those places. I think we have to make it as, first of all, we have to make it as easy as possible to develop in smart ways all across our region. So that means taking a look at our development services department in the county, making sure our permitting process is actually efficient and timely. I've spoken to lots of people who are trying to develop at every income level around the county, and there's significant amount of frustration about that, both at the city and at the county. So we really need to make sure that department is right sized. The other thing that the county has, that the city has a lot less of, is land. We have a lot of land at the county, and there's some really interesting things being done with building workforce housing on public land. I'll give you a great example. San Diego Unified School District right now has taken some of their own land and they're building workforce housing on it. Land is one of the most expensive parts of development. So if you can get rid of that cost, you can build housing for people who actually work at the schools, whether they're janitors or teachers or administrators, and then they have a shorter commute, which is also good for our climate. So I think the county could really lean in on identifying parcels that are available where we can build workforce housing for the thousands of county employees who do things like social work and our nurses and are in our public safety sector, so that we have less people driving all the way out to Rainbow or having to commute in from La Mesa to downtown, but actually live where they work and access services.
I just drew a blank. Okay, what I was going to say about La Mesa in particular, and similar to San Diego, so just a charter city, right? And so they have their own council and they have their own mayor. And so for the unincorporated areas, the county definitely has more decision making, but it is really, it is not quite legal, right? Like the county cannot tell the city of San Diego or La Mesa, this is what you're going to do because of the way that that charter is structured. And so I would say we do need help from the state and state laws to make the process more seamless, because right now there is a lot of resistance from our community members. And I also think we have a responsibility to build balanced communities. I do believe that. I believe that every person deserves to have a park near where their kids can play. They deserve, to have good schools. They deserve to have resources, but we need housing. And that's the bottom line. And like I said earlier, we don't have a place where people can go. It is really hard for us morally and legally to enforce these types of laws that we have. It is just immoral to do so. So I would say, just specifically to your question about La Mesa in particular, we would need help. We do need help from the state, and I know they're trying, but I think the issue is that our laws have been so built upon single family zoning that we really need to dig into that foundation and then work on the behaviors and beliefs that we have about each other in changing our communities. So.
Thank you very much. I don't see any hand raised online, so I'm going to go back in person. And then we have Zach, I believe your name is. Okay, great, wonderful. If you don't mind coming up here. There you go. Absolutely.
All right, well, first, I want to say thank you, Danny, for making this event free for non-members. I do appreciate that. I think this is a very important election, not a lot of time. So I do appreciate you guys both showing up. My question is, how will you be specifically different than Nathan Fletcher when engaging, dealing, and working with opposing views? Good question.
Well, my goodness, that's a good question. I do talk a lot about my experiences. I think it's so relevant in these positions, and but me, I have very strong beliefs and very strong values. But my door is open to any and all of those, except for like white supremacists, like, you know,
Yeah.
but everyone else, even those that, you know, I mean, I'm just this serious, I'm scared for my life, but I really, really value that because I do think in a sense that we are losing that as a people. And that's why we're experiencing so many issues that, you know, we are experiencing. You're listening to two very smart people, right? But the compassion for each other and the willingness to open doors. And I'll give a specific example. When I won in 2018, that was not my first time running. The first time I ran, I was one of 9 people. I lost, I had like 500 votes. I was 9 out of 9. But the second time I won and I beat a council president incumbent. And it was really a surprise and shock to everyone. I was not endorsed by any institution except for SEIU Local 221, who has since endorsed me for this race. But my door was open and I had many attacks. But I knew that I had to put my community ahead of how I was feeling. And so I will always do that. That's just a part of who I am.
Thanks for this question. So I'm a lesbian progressive Democrat who joined the Marine Corps. I certainly believe very similar to what Councilmember Montgomery Steppe has said, that at the end of the day, people who are engaging in the public process, who are talking about their beliefs and their values, who are showing up at City Hall or the county administration building to express their concerns, this is coming from a place of wanting to make their community better. And I might not agree with them on the policy points or the implementation, and I might fundamentally disagree with their value system. But at the end of the day, I respect that they have taken the time to come and talk to me. And I've always felt like that in my personal life. My professional life as a Marine was certainly a 7-year exercise in learning how to talk about things that I disagreed with my peers and friends. And it also was a great opportunity to learn that we have a lot more in common than we have a difference. You know, I can't even tell you some of the times where I'm hanging out with a, you know, Republican good old boy from the South, and we are agreeing on so many things, even though we have completely different backgrounds and upbringing. So I just think it's important to recognize that. My mom watched MSNBC till the day she died. My dad is a Trump supporter. We all contain multitudes, you know, and we have to acknowledge that and work together respectfully.
Really important topic, especially in this polarized area where we cannot get along. So I appreciate you being here and I appreciate the question. All right, any questions online? Going once, going twice. All right. And we had another question. Janice, want to step up here real quick?
My question is about the county and addiction services. For people that are on Medi-Cal or Medicaid, it's very hard to get in to any place but McAllister. And if the people that I work with on the street, if I can get them into McAllister, it's like winning the lottery. Actually, a senior lady, I got in 2 weeks ago. She wanted to go in. She told me that morning. I started calling. I got really lucky and I got her in that day. She's there. She's in detox. Now, the big problem is she's going to come out of there and have nowhere to live because we don't have enough sober living areas. So it's a twofold real problem is we don't have enough detox beds. And so like the concern of this citizen that she doesn't want to step over people who are doing drugs. And when those people say, I want to get clean, you have to have a bed right then and there for them. Not tomorrow, not next week, that day. And then when they come out, they cannot go back to the street. They have to go to a sober living and have a path to housing. So how can both of you answer the question to how can we make this happen at the county? Because it's not happening right now.
Just a reminder, when you ask a question, hold the mic close to your face. It helps with the audio.
Thank you so much for that question. I serve currently on the county's Behavioral Health Advisory Board, which oversees behavioral health services and HHS. And we hear every month from Dr. Luke Bergman, who's the director of behavioral health services at the county, about the struggles that his department is facing. And one of the biggest struggles they're facing is a lack of workers, people to actually staff detox centers and crisis stabilization units. The county estimates that there will need at least 18,000 additional behavioral health workers in the next decade to meet the demand. And so the first thing we have to do is, one, invest in these detox centers, but also invest in competitive pay and benefits for our county employees so that we can attract and retain people who have the experience to be able to provide these services. To your point about where do they go once they've gone through a detox program, over the course of the pandemic, we lost hundreds, if not thousands, of long-term care facilities. Board and cares, places that sober living facilities that were just shut down for lack of funding, or it was just too expensive or dangerous to run. We have to reinvest in those. There is a sliver of state money that Governor Newsom has put aside for us to invest in reopening some of these long-term care facilities where people can get the care that they need. But we have to be really aggressive about that, going after that funding and making sure that we have the appropriate staff to implement it. I really appreciate your question. Thank you. Your outfit is fabulous.
I was gonna say the same thing. This is all of our frustration, right? This is extremely holistic. So you mentioned 3 different areas, you know, and with one of your clients or people that you were working with. And I do agree that we have to have more detox beds, but the issue about the workforce, which we're seeing those issues across every industry, is that we do have to invest also, of course, in pay. We see that also with our homeless outreach workers, that we're working right now to increase their pay as well. But we have to work on training programs and those types of things that are entering people into the industry and finding people that have the gift to do this type of work, because it is hard. It's very hard to do this type of work. And so we have to do all of these things simultaneously. We cannot invest in one without investing in the other, because within 6 months, the lady is going to need all of those services. And so that is I think the issue that we have to step back and plan for, is that we have to get people to work in these fields, but we have to have more beds. I have heard that there is less incentive even with regard to insurance and the like for hospitals to even set up these types of beds. And so the county at some point could incentivize some of our hospitals and others that are able to set these shops up more than, so that they receive more than the state is currently giving them through those insurance programs.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the question. I'm going to go back online, and I see, well, in the issue of fairness, I'm going to go to Jeremy first, since he hadn't had a chance to ask. So Jeremy, you've got the floor.
Hi, my question is, minimum wage in our area is around $15.50, which results in about $2,700 per month if you work 40 hours a week, which I would say about 50 to 75% of that is taken by housing on average. So that just seems to be unsustainable and leads to the question of a lot of people in that situation of, should I even stay in California or San Diego? And we saw from 2010 to 2020, a lot of people have chosen to leave, which resulted in a loss in the number of seats that we have in Congress as a state. So I guess my question to you would be, what is your message to somebody in that situation who's considering leaving the state or the city to places like Arizona, Nevada, Texas, or Florida?
Question.
Yeah, it's almost every day. Well, I would say every week, once a week, that I hear one of my friends or just someone that is super talented that grew up in San Diego is leaving because they want to have children or they have children and they want a place for them to stay and be able to you know, have a good quality of life as they raise their kids. This does come down to 2 things: housing, wages. Our wages certainly have not matched The increase in cost of living, it certainly has not. We at the city have to currently go back and look at our living wage ordinance. At the county, it would be the policy that governs that. I just don't think that especially corporations should be able to do business in San Diego if they're not paying what we deem as a livable wage because of cost of living has gone so high. So when we're talking about housing and homelessness and fair wages and all these things work together, because we are seeing more people enter into homelessness now that are getting housing, and it all does have to do with these issues that are facing us holistically. And so I forgot, what was that? 56? Okay. So working on these issues as I have and transferring those skills to the county are extremely important, but it does come down to housing, and it also comes down to wages and demanding more of the companies that want to do business in the region, in the county of San Diego.
Please don't go to Florida, Jeremy, but if you do, please start organizing. Look, everything the council member said. Second, I think the county, has a big opportunity. One of the things we know about San Diego is that more people are falling into homelessness than we can house. So every day we get someone off the street, we get 2 more who have become homeless because of housing instability. The rents are through the roof. They can't afford it because their wages haven't kept up. So what can the county do right now? We've talked about building housing. We've talked about passing fair wage ordinances, but the county right now has a pilot program. It's a program developed by Chairwoman Vargas and Supervisor Anderson to provide a stipend to landlords of senior citizens whose rents have gone up and they can no longer afford them. So the landlord gets the funds so they can keep receiving their market rate rental, but the seniors are able to stay housed. That's a pilot program right now. I think we need to expand it significantly to more populations and make it permanent. Now you're probably thinking, okay, Janessa, that sounds like a lot of money. Well, right now the county, back in 2018, little story, the county was sitting on $2.4 billion of reserves. And everybody and all the Democrats said, we need to get some Democrats elected so that we can tap into those reserves and start spending them on the people who need them the most. Today, guess what the reserves are, the county? $2.4 billion, same amount, $680 million of flexible funding. So I believe the funding is there. We need to apply it now. People are hurting, people are in crisis, and we need to be able to make sure they stay housed. Perfect timing. Dialing it in.
Yeah. All right, I think we're gonna do either 1 or 2 more questions, and then we're gonna do closing statements and we'll take a vote. Awesome. So going back in person, I think we have someone in the back. Do you mind coming up, Brett? Wonderful. I don't know your name.
Melissa.
Melissa. Yes, I apologize.
No worries.
Thanks, Melissa.
My name is Melissa Grace. I'm a District 4 resident, live in Hillcrest, 92103. Over the last several years, what I've heard in the community is that a lot of people don't feel represented by their elected officials. And I've worked with a lot assembly in Sacramento, trying to get citizens involved, engaged in their civic responsibility, educated on the stuff that's going on. And the one question that I have is related to how do you keep track of the will of the people? Because what I heard you say is that you've got strong values and strong opinions, basically. So as an elected official, your job is to represent the will of the people. So how do we track what the will of the people is? Is it a form of direct democracy? Is it supporting, I think, ranked choice voting? Is it promoting citizens assembly? And how do you actually keep track of what is the majority of the will of the people?
You got it.
Well, thanks for the work that you do in the community, Melissa, to get people engaged, especially young people. That's so important. And I think that question actually speaks to like one of the biggest problems in our democracy right now, that it is not a representative democracy. We've got things like gerrymandering. We have immense amounts of dark money in politics. And we have there's a lot of cloudiness about how our system works. When you have like polls that show that 80% of Americans want better regulations around guns, and we can't get a single thing done in Congress, how are these things disconnecting? Where people say they're concerned about the climate, and yet we keep investing in oil companies and allowing oil companies to drill how is this happening? So I think that's kind of the question for the ages. I love exploring all the things you mentioned, ranked choice voting. I love the idea of using technology to get more feedback. The county has recently started a data and analytics office that is actually tracking how dollars are spent and how things are being, what the impact of those dollars are. But doing some more direct sort of feedback, I think, from the community, using technology to survey larger numbers of people, because, you know, you've been down to the administration building, you know that that's a small sliver of the community that's there. The people who have the time to be there. And so we do need to get better at feedback. And one of the ways that I would commit to that in a very analog way, if I was your next supervisor, is getting out of my office and going into the community to talk to people, because that's the very least you can do, is leave your office and go to where people are, where they work, and talk to them directly.
Yeah, so this is what breaks my heart about where we are right now, right? And about the distance that we see between people and elected officials. I mentioned 2018 before, that was no institution, virtually no institution supporting me. And me being able to, because it is a city council district, be able to really go to almost every door and talk to people and form that connection, no matter where they were, what they believed in. I had NPPs, I had Republicans on my list to go and to talk to them. And I think we're missing that. The one thing that I also did promise in that race is that I cannot control what other supervisors will do or what other council members would do, but I can, the one thing that I control is my proximity to my communities. That's the one thing that we as electeds can control. And I know with the larger district, you know, it is tough. I will be very frank about that, because you're in committee meetings, you're in council meetings, you're, you know, doing so many different things and making so many policy decisions that may impact 10 years down the line. But the now is so important, and the connection is so important, and the post-pandemic connection is so important right now, that if we lose that, you know, I'm worried about, you know, where we are as a democracy, because I'm hearing the same things that you hear. But how do I check that? I do use a community governance model as well in my office to bring, as I've talked about, the Privacy Advisory Board, and I talk about Commission on Police Practices and all of these things, where we engage with community advocacy groups who do represent larger communities behind them in order to change policy. And so that's important. It's hard. It's not easy, but it's important.
Yes.
It's 5 to 5.
All right, so I think I've been given you gotta cut it off. So, all right, unfortunately, Francis, I'm sorry we didn't get to your extra question. But I'm gonna give, if we can shorten it to 2 minutes, that'd be great. And then remind me, I think we're over here.
Really do appreciate being with you all on this Sunday evening. What a sacrifice for you to be here and participate in this. But look, I really believe in the capacity that I have to be the best board of supervisor for you all. And I believe in that because I've been in those meetings that make it tough, that city staff does tell us, you can't spend this money and you can't take care of this most vulnerable community, and you can't give our city workers raises. I facilitated the conversations that resulted in some of the highest raises that our city workers have seen in over a decade, because I know what those conversations are about, and I know how to get through them, and I know how to work through this system to actually make it better for the people that are residing in this wonderful county. And so with that experience, I want to take that to the Board of Supervisors so I can hit the ground running. I think that this could be an historic opportunity for me to hold this seat as the first Black woman ever to be a Board of Supervisors in the county ever since it was chartered. But I think not only that, the professional experience, the personal experience that I would bring to that seat would allow me to do the things, at least put a dent into doing the things that we need to do as a county. And also, as I've always wanted to do, to build the trust that we need with our community members to actually make this system, that is a wonderful system, to make it work for every single one of us. So I'm really excited to do that work, and I would just ask for your support.
Did that very efficiently. We're giving you a little more time, so thank you.
Thank you so much for having us both out this evening and for taking the time to be here. You know, my whole career has been about service. It's been about taking a look at really hard problems that folks say are impossible to fix or do anything about, whether it's a genocide in a corner of the world that most Americans have never heard about, or asking the military to open up top jobs to women, which I did as an active duty service member, volunteering for schools that were closed to women, and testifying and working with Congress until that policy was rescinded. I worked during the Trump administration to pass one of the largest investments in public lands and conservation in America's history, and we did that in a bipartisan manner. I continue to do that work at scale every day through my current job at That Voice Foundation. And I really want to bring that big picture thinking to the county. We need great leaders at every level of government if we're going to solve problems, but we also need to think really big about the problems facing San Diego County, because the problems that we're facing are really big. This is the most expensive county in the nation. We have one of the fastest growing homeless populations in the nation, and we can't do things the same old way and expect a different result. So I'm here asking for your support. I'd love to earn it. I know the club has an opportunity to make a choice on an endorsement process. Here's my pitch to you. You've got two great Democrats up here. I'd love to ask you to either vote no endorsement or a dual endorsement. That will allow us both to go on to the larger county party and compete there. I really hope the party doesn't tear itself apart over this quick race. We have a very right-wing extreme Republican in the race. There are going to be others who get in by the June 16th deadline. I would love for the party to focus on telling Democrats there is an election so that you make sure that you have a great choice going into August or November. So that's my pitch to club members. I'm honored to sit up here with Councilmember Montgomery Steppe this evening. I think she's doing an incredible job at the city, and I hope that I can earn their support going forward.
Wonderful. Yeah, perfect timing. And thank you both for attending. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your days, your busy schedules. It's going to get busier and busier as a campaign manager, I know. Let's give them a round of applause for coming. Running and being leaders. So much of what we need here in San Diego is leadership and defining leadership. What I do off my volunteer stuff is I study leadership, and I oversee the SDSU staff for the Division of Student Affairs and Cultural Diversity. And so much of what they're doing is trying to emphasize leadership and trying to get students, most especially to study leadership, so that we can go on to have better leadership in society in general. So I appreciate you guys. The way we're going to do this, I've already targeted everyone in the room as a member. So you guys should have a little paper. You can write a private vote, fold it up, and you guys can vote for. So you mentioned something that has me in a quandary in my head, doing a dual endorsement. That would, to my knowledge, I think that would require a motion. I think, and Doug, our parliamentarian for the party, is here, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, the ballot, the way I have it proposed online, or what I will have online, is Janessa, Monica, and then no endorsement. So we have those two options. Again, from what I just said, if we wanted to do a dual endorsement, I'm not too sure how that would look in terms of the associate votes. But if you want to do that, that's the wish of the club, and that's what we'll do. With that said, I am going to do a small presentation, a 5-minute presentation real quick about the border situation going on at the border. We've got a resolution that's going to be very, very important for the party to consider from La Voz Demócrata. And I will translate for you as best as possible. And we're going to go over that for the next 5 minutes. Then as we're going over that, or after, fill out those cards. Feel free to put them in the donation box. Just toss it in there. I'll mix it up and we'll count them in a minute. I do need 2 volunteers to oversee the election. So if any member or non-member can oversee the counting of the ballots, if you guys want.
Danny, how will members online cast their vote?
For members online, I'm going to create a Google form, which you will have access to in just a second.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask the candidates to move to the audience.
My glass was sweating.
Oh, no problem. Yes. And what a civil debate. This is one of the most civil debates I've presided over, so I appreciate both candidates really being, civil and happy and, taking this to a depolarized situation. So, with that said, I'm going to allow Luis from La Voz Demócrata to come down and present a little bit about the resolution on what's going to happen here in the border crisis.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Luis Vega, and I'm the president of La Voz Demócrata. I come in here because a lot of people here know what happened in the border of the Friendship Park. This is a part affected for both the community, United States to Mexico. We have a Friendship Park worth the CFP, but have a dispute because he wanted to destroy the park. He wanted to put it a gate. A lot of people have this problem for this gate because I know kids coming this water from Mexico go to inside to the United States to the beach. But it's only no effect for the Imperial Beach. It's affect both countries because something happened. He opened the gate already. CBP, the Border Patrol, the gate is going to have a flood for both countries effect. And then a lot of people because I asked him for a habilitation. He wanted to destroy the park, the Friendship Park. This is a park he had more than 15 years ago. It's only one communication, both country, like family, immigration people, like you one had, because sometimes he can cross the border the other side. And then it's the only part. This is something we need to go working together. And then the Democrat for San Diego, I worked for a different club, and then support to us. And then, but this is San Diego support the supervisor Nora Vargas, support the Congressman Juan Vargas, support Steve Alex, Senator Alex Padilla, and then a lot of working the community support to us. But this is no problem in San Diego because local she support to this. We need to go stop for destroy the Friendship Park. This is because Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump. He want to make a more the war. He want to destroy the Friendship Park. This is Joe Biden is the person only to have the power for stop in the White House. That's why I need the support for the resolution for this for us because we want to stop, not destroy the Friendship Park and want to keep it because this is for family. We wanted to work together. The mayor Paloma Aguirre, she went Washington DC. She spoke what happened in DC because she's the mayor for Imperial Beach. She don't want this because one again have this problem. We need to work together, both countries fix it. What the problem is coming the water through, no more contamination, but no one to destroy the park. Thank you so much, Danny, for the invitation, and I hope so support for us for stop the construction and send this message for the White House because Congressman Juan Vargas, I'm sorry, he's gonna go spoke in the Congress, support to us. But we're going to next week to Los Angeles and we'll ask you to all state support for because the Democrat Party no wanted this gay not destroy the part of the Friendship Park. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely. And did you guys have any questions about Friendship Park and what's going to happen with the resolution?
Yeah, what's the timeline?
Okay, the time is now because start working out the construction. We need to stop. This is the only power Joe Biden need to stop. This is something Donald Trump, he's put in war for destroy Friendship Park, CBP, he want to continue, but now we need to go send it because he want to destroy. It's why working Paloma Aguirre to help to us, Sinara, I know that people Sinara and Octavio Aguilar working together to send this message for the federal and then Congress and put it to agenda, put it because I want to go to stop. I want to destroy the Friendship Park because only people he know live in San Diego, he know how many years have this for families. It's support. So to see families and can sometimes have open the gate for families.
And this is a resolution for the local party?
Yes, yes, this is for local, but local support. We have it to the Escondido, San Marcos, different club, the Democrat Party, Islay, Bonita, Chula Vista, San Diego, and Imperial Beach. I have a lot of club support to us. That's why I'm coming to asking support for local, and then we have this and go to send it to Washington DC. This solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then what we'll do for this resolution is we'll bring it on. Unfortunately, this month has already passed and I wasn't able to give notice to folks to endorse in this resolution, but we can bring it back next month if that's something that your timeline.
That's fine. He's working to ask to yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So we'll bring it next month at our meeting where we will vote to support or not support this this destruction of Friendship Park. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. Only a couple you can go to the website www.lavozDemocrata and you can see more clear and you can read what happened, all this information. Thank you. www.lavozDemocrata.com and you can see more information. Thank you.
Veo que tenemos una pregunta en la Zoom aquí.
Okay.
Michelle, do you have a question for the resolution?
Yeah, I did. I'm actually helping with this. I am an ally member of Lavos, and I just wanted to be clear with people in this room that this is being taken up on a state level. I helped Sonora get it accepted into the California Democratic Party Resolutions Committee. Hopefully it will be chosen as one of the 10 for a vote this coming weekend on Sunday. But the wording is slightly different, for the state focus, but there's also some local aspects of this that include not just the 30-foot wall at Friendship Park, but also a very serious environmental issue about putting a gate into the Tijuana River. So I do encourage people to read more about the details of it. And it's more for us to get that visibility and that, people talking about it, awareness of it at the club level before we take it to the local party, but it will be taken to the resolution committee at the local party. And so the more clubs that are comfortable with weighing in, the stronger our position will be and the more that awareness will be. And just FYI, I cannot access a Google sheet online for the vote. I can do a poll or I can text someone the vote, but I will not be, I don't have the ability to access a Google sheet.
Got it. Thank you. And I will take a voice vote if you don't mind. Or you can text over the vote to the chat to me directly.
Yeah, I cannot do it on the chat. I can use regular text.
And you can either text me or I will take a voice vote.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So
Danny, sorry, I have a question.
Just a real, I can't see the screen because I'm creating the voting poll. So
that's okay. Yeah, it's real quick. I would just like you if you could put the website that was mentioned on the chat. Yeah. That would be very helpful. I'm with the Uptown Dems, and I'm pretty sure we might want to talk about this.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mary. All right, we're gonna take
the website would be nice.
Yes, absolutely. I will put it as soon as I get this thing up. We're gonna take a short intermission as I get the online votes for people in person. Feel free to grab some more wine. The wine's still there, brownie's still there, mac and cheese is probably cold, but feel free to grab some. And we got some more drinks. Feel free to mingle, take some time while we collect the votes, while we make sure that all the voting is done. And then after that, we'll announce, and then we'll let you guys go home. In just a second. Thanks for your help today. Here's a piece of paper, you can just write that mark or whatever, and we'll comments in the box. Do you have a pen or do you need anything? Yes, thank you very much. Give me just a second before we count those. Give me a second before we count those. Yes, I do. Yes, please. Yes, please. We are gonna, oh, I'm so sorry.
Missed our discussion.
Did we?
We didn't do a discussion.
Can we do a discussion now?
Several people have voted. I don't know if it will change.
Okay,
anything.
I apologize. We didn't do this quite properly. We have to have a discussion before anyone votes. So
I mean, we can leave those as is.
we can leave those as is. If someone wants to change theirs, we can do that. But procedure tells us, let's close that. And then I want to take real quick, people in favor.
But I don't know how many members we have here. So that's the other thing, because
In person, yes.
yeah, we had a small number, but enough for our.
We still have some online. So I am going to call for everyone real quick. If anyone who supports a candidate, I have to do that real quick. If anyone who supports a candidate, feel free to come up and speak real quick while I take care of this endorsement. Oh, thank you. Can you get rid of the
Oh,
candidates?
yeah.
And online, feel free just to unmute. Give me 1 second, actually. I want to make sure that this endorsement is done. All right, if I can get everyone's attention real quick. Everyone, a voting member, anyone upstairs. I'm going to start. I'm gonna start taking discussion now. So now that the candidates are out of the room, I am going to take in person and then thank you. And then we'll take online. So in person for Monica Montgomery. Going once. No, because it's been a notice meeting. Yeah. In support of either Monica or Janessa or no endorsement. No, we can take a public comment as well, or non-members. It should have. So if, like I said, I'm going to disregard those, we're going to take the vote again. Yes. So anyone who's still a member who is left is going to not have to count. So, all right. I am taking in person. 1, twice. Wonderful. Come up. If you don't mind standing back here.
Largers.
In favor of a person, but we're not here to like that. So it's more like, how do I support political? Does that make sense? I think this was.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, I am in support of Monica Montgomery step, because I think tried and true, she has always shown through as somebody who was gonna say, what she felt convicted to, and has routinely shown that she understands the problems at hand, especially where, housing is concerned. And so for that, I'm in support of nominating Monica Montgomery.
In person, any other supporters?
Hi, Bob Link with East Village and
Mind
member
standing
here
back
of
here
the-
so that the online folks can see you? Back there.
Oh.
Oops, careful.
Hi, Bob Link here, East Village Residents Group President and also a member of the club here. I would like to recommend that we recognize that both of the candidates here this evening were very professional and came from different perspectives. I've been here for the last couple of meetings where the Democratic Club expressed concern with endorsing somebody very early in the process, because they've not had the demonstration to walk the walk, talk the talk, et cetera. And so we had a glimpse here of some priorities. And I think they both brought up very good priorities. I would recommend for the time being that we vote for both candidates as a dual position out of this club. I think Monica Montgomery brings a lot of experience from the city council and has certainly demonstrated, and I agree with Levi said that a lot of history in the past. But I think what Jessica brings to the table is also a recognition that we need broader resources application, and we need some questions asked from the county back to the local level and then up to the federal level. Come on, we gotta work together to make this work. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was for Monica, right?
That was for dual.
Okay, the vote right is for one or the other, or no endorsement. Yeah, after that, we can consider dual or qualified.
Okay, so by prior to the.
That's about Janessa. Go ahead. So we had one for Janessa, one for Monica, and we have now Betty Cushman, one of our members. If you don't mind coming back here.
I agree that we have two very, very qualified, strong candidates, but it's hard to choose. Each has their strengths and probably weaknesses that I don't know their weaknesses yet, but Janica seemed to have a wider horizon that she's looking at, whereas Monica's experience has been more localized. And so I think, in my opinion, it tips the scale slightly more in favor of Janica, because I think wider horizons with more creativity, thinking outside the box might be helpful. But again, both seemed wonderful.
Was, oh, I took over.
That was for Janessa?
Vanessa.
Wonderful. Okay, so we got two for Janessa, one for Monica, and we have the next one is for Monica. Gotcha. And then we're gonna take online.
All right. So I would like to speak in favor of Monica. The reason being, when you get down to it, politicians talk shit all the time. Just there, that's what they do. They talk well. But at the end of the day, what politics is really about, and I'll throw this one to Lori Saldana as well, because I'm a big Lori supporter. At the end of the day, all politics comes down to where your money comes from and what you do when big money issues come up. And I think we have Monica that's in there. She faced a big money lobby in San Diego Gas and Electric for a big vote. That she lost, but she took, she took the strong vote to vote against the SDG and E monopoly. So yeah, Janessa has said a lot of things, but I have to say, I'm very concerned that Scott Peters and Tony Atkins and all these people that control, a bunch of the financial donations in this race are supporting Janessa. I think that's a big problem.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna go on to online. Online, I see Doug and this is getting Pamela. I'm gonna go with Pamela first, and then we'll go with Doug. Go ahead and unmute.
Actually, I just had a procedural question. I'm not, let's see, I was alerted to this meeting by Hillcrest Indivisible, and I'm not sure if you're talking about only the club members voting.
The public can participate in the discussion. They just can't vote.
Got it. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Absolutely. That case?
Well, I agree with everybody who has said that we have two excellent candidates. As you can see, they are both very, very impressive. I'm speaking for Janessa. She is a relatively new face to the political scene. I first met her several months ago when she was planning on running for supervisor before Nathan Fletcher's resignation. As you can see from what she had to say today, she is a very thoughtful person. She is a policy wonk. You talk about any area of county government, as she has studied it. She knows the facts. She knows how to get things done. She'll be able to work with both the Democrats and the Republicans on the board, and I think she'll be very, very effective. It is a close call because they are both well-qualified candidates, and I highly respect both of them, but I'll be supporting Janessa. Thank you.
Just to be clear of conflict of interest, given you work for Tony Atkins, has she endorsed in the race? Does this affect your decision?
Well, I joined the club independently. I pay my own dues, and it is true that my boss has endorsed Tony Atkins. I mean, my boss is Tony Atkins, and she has endorsed Janessa. But I make my decisions independently. I pay my dues independently, and I vote independently.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. All right. Any other discussion items online or in person? We're on 3 for Janessa, 2 for Monica, and none for no endorsement. So, I see Sherry.
Yes, thank you, Danny.
Yes.
I am not a member of the downtown club. I also heard about the candidate interviews today via Hillcrest Indivisible. I just wanted to, having seen Janessa when she was running in the large mayoral primary several years ago in a debate.
I'm so sorry. I have to stop you right there. Are you speaking for Janessa or no endorsement?
I'm speaking for Monica Montgomery Stepp.
Okay, thank you very much.
But I just wanted to say I can't vote. I'm just joining the discussion based on what you said. And I think it's very important to support someone who actually has experience in local government and who walks the walk even when votes are difficult. I also think it's very important that we pick that in general for Democrats locally, we support the candidate who has the best prospect, not only of experience, but of remaining independent of the corporate forces that have subverted so much of what progressive Democrats want within the party. And I think Montgomery Stepp's experience, her sense of rootedness in the community as a lifelong community member, make her the stronger candidate to actually reflect the constituency in District 4 for a county supervisor. We worked very hard to get a Democratic majority on the Board of Supervisors for 20 to 30 years. And I think we want somebody who reflects the community. So thank you for letting non-club members voice a preference.
Absolutely. We want to make taken into consideration. So I appreciate you for joining us today, and thank you to Indivisible. All right, with that said, I don't see any more hands. Only no endorsement is up. So I am going to close the discussion item, and I am going to hold the vote. And then online, Linda, I did get your endorsement at your vote. Do you mind doing it with the Google form? I'm dropping the form in it right now in the chat. In the chat, you will see the message for yes, the website link and the form for the endorsement vote for online members to participate in person. Feel free to add your
Hey,
add your
Danny,
vote
how are you going to confirm that the people who fill out the form are members of the club?
Well, that's a good question. Let me see. Raise your hand if you're a member in this body.
Oops,
So I know Doug. Linda, you're a member. Michelle, yes, you are a member. Linda, can you hear me? I see you, Linda. So there should be 3 votes in total. Okay. If I don't see 3 votes, then something has gone wrong or someone has not voted.
So Danny, I texted you my vote.
Wonderful. Okay, then all the votes for online are done. Closing this now. Let me just make sure. Yeah. And I will not be voting in this race unless we need a tiebreaker. And the requirement is 60% threshold to receive the endorsement, and that will dictate our associate member, me, to the caucus to then vote in that race. Okay,
So we have everyone, we got,
has everyone voted in person?
people who left. And Michelle, you got her via text, you put it.
Yep. Yep, all those votes are, online votes are good. Whoever's gonna be watching the vote. All right, everyone who's online, I hope you've been listening to the discussion. We are at a tie. And there was a discussion about considering both candidates as endorsed. Although what I had told the members was my vote will not carry sway or my vote will not go towards the vote for the caucus because it's one or the other or no endorsement. So unless I'm wrong, Doug, I think it's better off that we choose a candidate. But then again, that's up to the body. I didn't vote in the last race. Now, because it is a tie, I will be voting in this election.
Would that put the person above 60%?
Yeah, no one, both got 3 votes. So, and there were 7 votes. So
My question was, if you vote, will that give somebody 60%?
That's a good question.
And you have the right to vote regardless, but
Right. I wanted to make sure that it was kind of unbiased, but now that it has to be a tiebreaker.
7 people, you need 5.
And if I'm
60%. 6 times 7 is 42, so you need 5.
so I need 5.
Yeah.
I thought it was 4.
Well, it is 4.2.
4.2, so you need 5.
So it.
Okay.
yeah. We have a question of a member who reactivated, but
Yes.
do we know?
Oh, what was your name? Michelle Diaz?
Can we look up when her? And
you
I
did
see
it
it.
through a donation, right?
Correct.
Okay, then you are a member. Okay, yeah.
You're eligible to vote. Okay, so.
So let's take this again, since we're not going to be dropping it.
Now we'll.
Give me 1 second. Let me just make sure that I confer. No endorsement is not applicable. Like I can't take that off the ballot. Right?
So if we have
Doug?
8 people, it's still.
you have to keep no endorsement on the ballot.
Right. Okay, so we're just. Exactly. So we'll just take the vote again with me voting. Again, does everyone's vote still apply? Or do you guys want to change the votes?
Online?
Yeah, if everyone's vote still is going to be the same way, I'm just going to leave it at that. And then we won't take a vote online through the form. If they've already texted to me, but okay, I'm hearing from 2 people that it's been the same. Doug, is yours different or the same?
Mine's the same.
Okay, wonderful. Then voting online is closed. Did everyone vote?
Yeah, so Denny, I had a question, if you can hear me.
All right, sorry that we're having to do it in this disjointed way. So we did the second round of voting. And we did have a change in, from the previous vote. So, and this time Danny did cast a vote. So there were, and a member who had previously not realized she was eligible, but she had renewed her membership. So she came up and asked about that. So we actually added her vote as well. So we now had, the
So
original
she
vote-
previously was a member and just renewed, is that?
she had renewed some time ago, but she hasn't participated very often and didn't understand the process. So we checked her credentials. She is eligible. She did not vote the first round, but she did vote the second round. So we wound up with 5 votes for Monica, 3 votes for Janessa, and 1 vote for no endorsement. So we are going to need to do another round because still no one reached the 60% threshold with 9 votes is 5.5 votes. So we drop the person with the lowest number in this case.
That's not true.
Oh, no,
It was
the
the top 2 vote getters.
Yeah, it is true. It is, it
top two
is
vote getters.
dropping.
Well, to my understanding, the top 2 vote getters don't get eliminated. And the top 2 vote getters were Janessa and
No, that's not accurate. You actually drop the candidate with the least amount of votes. You always keep no endorsement and 1 candidate.
okay,
The one
is
with
that
the highest number of votes.
yeah, I'm okay with that. Let me just make sure that with the parliamentarian that's what we should be doing.
Yeah, Michelle is correct.
Okay. All right, so then we do get to
So do the people who are voting online want to text or put in the chat for Danny only? What your vote
So did Danny?
So just chat only to Danny. And I just realized this Mac power is about to die. Let me get the power cord for this device so we don't lose everything here.
I don't show Danny in my participants list. I show Downtown Democratic Club. Is that? What?
Yes, send it to the Downtown Democratic Club. And why is this not fitting? Just a moment. Where's your power?
It's the below one.
And I heard you reading that more than candidates that would be homeless to go with your meeting too. But you want all of the candidates.
Yeah. So let me make sure on the bylaws that is
You
what
need
we
to
do
scoot
as
this
well.
way,
Oh,
because you're
shoot.
about to lose your connection.
Yes.
Well, no, but we always have to maintain the no endorsement. But there are.
Right, but the bylaws have to stipulate candidate on ours.
The language, if it's contingent of the language.
Let me screen share so you guys can see what I'm saying here. Okay, No, don't let anyone leave the room. Yeah, the doors are locked. SD downtown. Dems, bylaws. Endorse. Expiring 2 weeks prior. So, 60%. Any members?
It's D. It says if no candidate receives required 60% for endorsement, subsequent ballots shall be taken, deleting the candidate receiving the least number of
Okay,
votes.
perfect. So, all right. So with that said, I'm going to take the online votes first. I don't want to create another form. So do you guys mind chatting me? If not, then I can create another one.
I already checked.
I already texted you again.
Wonderful. The same votes?
Yes,
And
for
then
me.
with
me,
Doug,
it's the
yeah,
same
Doug is going to be different. You texted me or sent it to me on here?
I
Doug?
texted you.
I
on
got
your
you,
telephone.
Michelle. With Doug's, I
Thank
was
you.
saying, where's your vote?
Sorry.
Did you get my vote?
I did not know.
Oh, I chatted you.
Nope, I don't see it. Can you send it one more time?
Yeah, well, I don't mind telling you verbally if, yeah, no endorsement.
You got it. All right, so two no endorsements. Linda, are you the same? Yep, okay, gotcha. All right. One second, I'm gonna write the online one. Just look. I don't know. Your walking style. More I'm very like my genetically like my legs. It's like literally the language that also I don't know if I was intended by me or by Kanye and whatnot. You were correct. The language of the academy.
No endorsement or not.
Because so it clearly says in the bylaw, you can narrow it down to one candidate. So in effect, or no endorsement. No endorsement. So is no endorsement counted as a number, so we know versus. But, okay, so I hear what you're saying. But we know at less votes than Janessa. No, I hear, wait, you're counting no as a candidate. And no had less votes than Janessa. So if we don't eliminate no, why are you eliminating the person with the middle amount of votes?
Because if no endorsement is not considered a change. No endorsement is considered a possession that comes to the ballot regardless.
Understood.
So the lowest vote.
So if you're.
Sounds like clarification is the definition of.
So.
Yeah, or we could do ranked.
So no endorsement. Yes, it's just like a disconnection in language. That's fine. But that's not. That's
Well, there. Yeah. If we don't get 100%, then we can consider doing.
We don't go back and think, we would if anything, if somebody was found in Illinois, somebody changed, somebody said we were no longer continue to be, I don't know. Now, people have died, they put their names on it.
Yeah. Well, no, they're fine. It's fine. Oh, interesting. Just double check that, yeah. Okay, there are some more notes. And now I can. So. Yeah, but someone for, or rated qualified or. So, no one knows one long-term. So what that does is we can't endorse the trade, but we can rate qualified or what we endorse.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so I don't know if you guys heard, but it's a 4-5 vote, and Monica does not reach the 60% threshold after the third vote. And I explained the options, which are rating the candidates qualified or dual endorsement. With that said, does anyone have a motion? Oh, I see some hands up.
And Danny, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So my understanding is that dual endorsement is not something our county party does.
Yeah, so
We-
at this point, we're not going to be able to have a vote at Metro West. So that's out of the question.
Okay.
So now we're just as a club, how are we going to proceed? Because we're not going to have a vote in Metro West because we can't agree on.
I got it.
Do your bylaws allow for a dual endorsement?
Let me just make sure. I know it does allow for qualified.
Yeah, because qualified is part of the county.
But sometimes it'll say that you can only endorse one candidate per race.
Nope. Dual votes, no dual votes. What?
There it is.
One vote for executive board.
Oh, that's for,
So it doesn't stipulate it that we can't do it.
go down to where, scroll down to where it has, the ratings. And if you can enlarge it a little bit, that would be helpful for my, four eyes.
Endorsement, 6%.
Okay.
Okay.
It says if no candidate receives the 60% for the endorsement, subsequent ballots shall be taken. Says if after the completion of balloting, no candidate has received 60% of the vote required for an endorsement, the club may entertain motions to rate one or more candidates if a candidate is endorsed in a given race.
So we can't do dual, but we can do acceptable.
Right.
Yes, or qualified.
Or qualified.
Well, actually, no, their language is acceptable.
Ours is acceptable, but same thing.
Okay, then I would make a motion to rate both candidates acceptable.
Second?
Second.
Wonderful. And I'm just gonna take a voice vote on this. Is that okay? Everyone online?
That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna take
Fine.
both you guys. How is the vote? How do you guys vote?
Voters, come close.
How do you guys vote online?
I
I'll,
vote yes is my motion.
Yes, right.
I'll-
Michelle?
I'll vote yes.
Wonderful. Linda Rosenthal? Linda Rosenthal? Acceptable. Great. Thank you.
Acceptable.
Acceptable.
Acceptable. Yes. No, she said. Which is what you want to do.
I hate to throw a wrench in the works, but did somebody second Doug's motion?
The seconder to the motion was Bob Link.
Okay, I just didn't hear it online. Thanks.
Of course. We're just waiting for one more vote, and either way, it's probably going to be acceptable because, I mean, one against everyone is still acceptable. All right, so the candidates are in the room now. And after 1, 2, 3, how many votes did we take? 3? After 3 votes, unfortunately, no one got the threshold. We had a really good discussion, and it was like one, Monica, you had at one point 55. We did have to drop you off.
This is plugged in, Danny.
The second ballot. Then we took another ballot, and no one reached the threshold. And then after that, we stopped taking that position. So someone did a motion to accept both candidates as acceptable as bylaws, and now we are both acceptable, and we'll be listed as such for our website in our endorsements. Unfortunately, you know what that means. At our Metro West meeting, I won't.
Yeah.
But you guys are both great. You guys are both great. So we didn't want to not take a position. So we definitely wanted to make you guys both acceptable, which means you guys will be on our newsletter that we'll send out to voters in South Hillcrest. And we'll do some campaigns for the election as well.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you both, and thank you for, I know it's been a long day, and I really appreciate it. For everything we had to do to put this on. Oh. I'm a little stir crazy, so. Janessa and both candidates say thank you, and they are taking off now. So with that said, that is our meeting. We don't have anything else. Our next meeting will be on the third Sunday of June. We look forward to seeing you.
So a very good meeting, very good forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone. The white chairs go on here.
Hello, Lori. I'm Dan McClay. We met last summer as a representative. I think we had a picnic at Mission Bay Park, and you was just by out of D2.
Right.
I wasn't happy about.
Yeah.
That I know you weren't either. We had a conversation about it, which I bet you had a few. What are you been up to? You looking in another office or?
I don't think so. I've been working on some things having to do with the ethics. Our code of conduct, our appointees, and ordinance. You know, there's
Plenty to do.
plenty to do always. I hope that person is that, maybe that's Dan's jacket. We have a jacket on the chair. Have we signed up? I guess we should say goodbye. But thank you for coming over and saying hello. I'm glad to. Good choices, right?
I know it's not horrible to happen.
Oh. And, do you live in, remind me?
I'm a D2 resident.
Okay.
And came down here, so I wanted to see the candidates that was posted up on Facebook. I didn't know it was downtown Democratic.
Okay. We tried, so much goes on down there. This community. Well, I'm welcome to join. I'm very interested in issues like homelessness.
I'm really focused on moving our right now. I'm for AV83, just in the assembly before. It should come up to for about the next 2 weeks. Yeah, it has big, huge implications if we can make it happen. So any corporation that has 5% in aggregate ownership or 1% by English will be banned from donating money for our elections, which would seriously mean that the problem we have with money.
That's where it's always the other side working, treating workers. I mean, that's a constant.
Yes, but that's not a reason to exclude corporate money if you have opportunity, or at least hinder the dark side of it, because this will require them to show us where this money comes. Yeah, more transparency. Please consider it, and if you support it, share it, because we have 2 weeks. We did get it out of the dustbin of appropriations.
I thought the dustbin.
We thought they brought gallows. But, you know, a bunch of us were, you know, free, and I think we did have phone calls. And so that's a link to a petition and a reminder to contact somebody. You know, if you don't, I can't imagine you're not.
I appreciate your work on that.
Thank you.
And I guess,
Thanks for putting this up.
thanks, everyone. I guess we can log out. And
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We're closing the meeting now. We appreciate all of you who stuck with us. And thank you for hanging in there.
Right.